We're here to demystify seed sowing. Why does it never work? Why don't they come up? And why do I always fail at it? Today we're going to give you the simple steps with all the right goodies so that you can get it right and be an absolute pro. Why should we sow seed? Number one, it's really inexpensive. Plus, you're in control. You can time the amount of plants that you're going to have that you can eventually transplant into your garden. And more importantly, you can get to experiment with plants that you've always wanted to grow. To get seed sowing, this is what you need. The most important ingredient that you need is this stuff here. It's called palm peat. It's in a block. Basically, it's the outside of a coconut that's been shaved, a lot of it squashed together to make this block. This block you simply put into a container, add 2.5 liters of water to it, leave it for 20 minutes, and look what happens. Wow. It's seriously grown. It sucked up all the moisture, and all we then do is drop it into our container, and look how easily it breaks apart. Palm peat is amazing. Why? Because it's lightweight. It also has the ability to, look at that, hold moisture. Brilliant. The reason why we failed at seed sowing is simply because of moisture. Everything is in that seed, packed, ready to go, and all it needs is moisture and light. A tip about coconut peat is you don't have to use it all at once. You can simply put the lid on it, put it aside, and when you're ready to sow your next seeds, you can just take some out. Next up, we're going to need a little seedling tray. You'll notice it's got lots of holes in it. Very, very important for drainage because we don't want the seeds to be too wet. I use this. It's optional. It's a little builder's float. I love using it, and you'll see exactly why. Of course, you need your seeds. Number one, store your seeds in a cool area in your potting shed, and remember to keep them all in the same place and don't hide them into one of those other drawers where you'll never find them. I've got some vermiculite. Vermiculite is a volcanic product. It's really lightweight, and it also has the amazing ability to hold moisture and warmth. And you'll see how we're going to use that a little bit later. Pencil and marker, so we know what we've sown. Don't ever forget this step because you'll have no idea what's coming up. First thing we're going to do, get our tray in place and get our coconut peat. All we're going to do is just add bits in, handfuls. You're not squashing it down. You're keeping all this beautiful air inside it and the lightness, because young roots love lots of air inside any product and any medium that they're growing in. Second step is to take your float. You simply use the edges of your tray as your guide. And I just do small little circles like this. There we go. If you've got any holes, refill it, because we want a nice, smooth, even surface so that we can apply the seeds and there are no ditches that any seed's going to fall into. Right, once we've done that, we can take our excess coconut husk, and this I then simply pop into a little bowl, and you'll see what we're going to do with this in a couple of steps' time. Next thing is to choose your seeds that you're going to be sowing. Remember, the common name is normally at the top of the packet, so whatever you do when you're opening it, try not to tear that away so you actually still know what you've got left. Inside it, you will find all your beautiful seeds. The most important thing when sowing seeds is don't get too excited. Don't sow the whole packet all at once, because what are you going to do with about 400 parsley plants? So I normally use just a small little handful. Here alone, we've probably got about 40 parsley seeds. Amazing, isn't it? Potentially 40 parsley plants. Let's put that aside. Now we take our seed and we add it to that leftover coconut peat. Why are we doing that? It's pretty simple. Who gets it right by trying to sow the seed all evenly? That's where we generally go wrong, and we end up with large clumps of seeds and the little seedlings all coming up together, far too bunched together, far too overcrowded, which really leads to a weak plant. And most of the time, seed is brown in color, so you can't even see where you're sowing it. So by mixing it in with the coconut peat, what I'm doing is I'm simply bulking up the seed. Because I'm mixing it in here as well, I'm guaranteeing an even distribution of the seeds across my little tray. Really important, and you'll see how wonderfully it works when these little guys start germinating. take your little bits, and all we're going to do is evenly place it across our tray, starting from one side, moving across to the other. Remember, because we have distributed it nice and evenly and mixed it throughout the coconut peat, we know that these seeds are going to come up all nicely evenly spaced. Don't stress if you see a little seed on top, because we haven't finished this process yet. Last bit going on, making sure we've got all the bits out of here, any leftover, few little seeds that are left, and there we go. Right, next step, really simple. Take the vermiculite. Vermiculite comes in small little packets like this. You really don't need much of it. What I do is pop it into this little container that I used earlier. Leave that on one side. And remember, we spoke about how vermiculite is so light and it holds warmth and moisture. Remember, if anything to grow, we want warmth, and that really helps with the root development and getting those little cotyledons to start shooting up. We take the vermiculite, and all we do is we apply a layer of it. And don't get too stressed out about how thick this layer is, because your vermiculite is incredibly light. Any young seed will be able to push through this with the greatest of ease. Next up, take the float, and this is the only pressure that we're ever going to apply to this. From one side, simply firm it down. Remember, we're using the edges as our guide. Look at that. Now what we've done is we've got the vermiculite in contact with the coconut peat, in contact with the seeds, and what more can we want? It's good to go. Remember, always write down what you've just sown, because if you do a couple of these trays, this is going to be like, oh, what's going on here? So on our little tag, we write what it is, we write the date, and that's it. Pop it in, and then we give it a good watering. When watering your seeds, it's really important that you start with a very good watering can with a great fine rose. Always start pouring, not on top of the seedlings, directly on top of them, but to the side. Get your rose pouring out nice and evenly, and then simply move your hand across, never stopping directly on top of your product. Go across, backwards, do that 4 to 5 times, and you're guaranteed that it has gone right through, and the remaining moisture will simply just drop off through those beautiful drainage holes that you've got at the base. The reason why we're doing that, water can actually be quite heavy, and if you have to start watering on top of the vermiculite, your seeds are simply going to get pushed further down, or even worse, shot out. So never use a hose with any kind of jet sprayer. Next thing, where do we put them? Seeds like a gentle diffused light, not direct sun, because remember, while we're at work, we want these guys to still stay moist. So an area with lots of light, but not direct sun. Place them in there, and within 10 to 14 days, your little guys are going to start germinating. This is probably the most exciting part of it all, running out every day, checking if they're coming through, and when those first 2 little leaves start popping through, man, you are on the money. Wait for them to grow to get to the size of what we call the 4-leaf stage. At that point, you can then prick them out, pop them into other containers, let them grow on a bit, or even from there straight into the veggie garden. Good luck and enjoy. If you enjoyed this clip, like it, share it, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more gardening tips.